Okay. And we are going to start with number of the day routine. And our number of the day today is 53. Just take a minute as I'm talking to think about how can you represent the number 53 in as many ways as you can. You can use words, you can use numbers, you can use pictures. For this routine, we're going to use a platform called Jamboard, and Joy is going to drop the link in the chat. But if you have the slide deck open, feel free to also click on the word Jamboard. It will take you there. So here it is, it's loading for me. And we're gonna take about 5 minutes. You can use the pen option here on the left. I see lots of people joining our Jamboard. You can use the Post-it, where you can write a way to represent 53. You can answer a picture from the website, from the internet, or from your desktop. So I see lots of people already starting. My age, mine is 3 years. So I'll give us a quiet 5 minutes. And if page 1 is full, here in the middle, you can go to page 2 and demonstrate your representation, or page 3. I see our colleagues using languages to show the number 53.
Okay. So Kawthar, it seems like there is a limit to how many people can be on here at once, which we anticipate.
Okay, we did not anticipate that. So that's good to know. We apologize if you were unable to show us your representation. You can write it in the chat if you're able to, or if you would like, that's something we didn't anticipate, and I apologize for that. We'll contact DOT to see if there's a way to change that.
Looks like there might be a cap of 25 people.
That's what I'm seeing. I see people went to the second page to write more. Okay, so Ms. Hampson shared, it's part of Google that limits the number of users. So that's good to know. We're learning together. So I appreciate, Ms. Hampson for sharing that knowledge with us. And I saw that John is using the chat feature. We're problem solving together. John is using the chat feature to show us his thinking. So we'll take note of that. Joy and I will take note of that. And I see Chambers L is also taking advantage of the chat. We have about 50 more seconds. Yes, John. Looks like we're all learning this together, but Ms. Hampson knew it. Um, I mean, even for those of us that are teaching in the fall, it's if your class is larger than 25, they'll have a hard time accessing Jamboard. So that's good to know. Seema, thank you for participating in the chat. I see you sharing your thinking. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Feel free to go back to the Jamboard or use the chat to continue to add a representation as you think of them. And we'll go ahead and continue. And I saw Vidya wrote a comment. Feel free to, if there's any, we are going to get to a question section in the presentation, but if you have a question right now, feel free to write it in the chat. And Joy and I will take turns answering, but there will also be 2 parts, actually 3 parts in our session where we'll take a quick pause and a quick break to answer any questions that are coming up. Okay, hopefully that gives you a little bit about what we're going to do in terms of questions and answer. Okay. Let's go ahead and get to know one another. So here's our connector for today. I'm going to put us in breakout groups, 4 people per breakout group. And you'll just do an introduction. You're going to stay in the same breakout group for the other 2 times we'll be together. So share your name, preferred pronoun, your role and school site or team, if you're a TSA, a Central Office TSA. And just go ahead and answer this question. What was one of your most successful virtual lessons? This can be a lesson that you taught as an educator, as a teacher, or paraeducator, or as a learner. So you were one of the learners and you saw a lesson being taught, or you participated in a lesson being taught. Okay, so just think about that as I go ahead and start breakout groups. And I appreciate everybody's patience and gracefulness. Okay, so 8 minutes total, 2 minutes per person. Oh, I did this wrong. Oopsie.
You did?
I did.
What happened? I got put in breakout number 1.
I did this wrong.
Can we undo it?
How do I?
Oh, good job.
I did it wrong.
What went wrong?
It's 4 breakout rooms with 12 people in each.
Uh-oh.
It's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended it. I'm gonna end it. They're gonna come back.
Okay. No worries.
It's okay. Ugh. With Hugo being here today.
Multiplication.
Yeah. Should be coming back soon. Okay, everyone is back. I'm sorry I did not do this correctly. And I'm working on not apologizing because we're all learning. So I did it incorrectly and we are gonna try this again and that's okay. Okay, so 4 participants per room, 3 to 4, and there'll be 12 rooms. All right, let's try this again. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm going to set a timer for 8 minutes.
Is everyone gone?
We have 2 people that have not joined. We have 2 people that haven't joined.
I see that. I wonder because they're just maybe not at their computer.
They might not be at their computer, yeah. Joy, I'm just going to go tell Hugo that I'm going to read him a book later so he doesn't come back again.
Okay. I screenshotted 3. I'm looking through the Jamboard.
Oh, is that what you were doing?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me? I should
Yeah, I can hear the screenshots. Okay, I'll be right back.
Let me-
Okay. Okay, Joy, everything's okay?
Are you keeping track of the time?
Yeah, I have it. They have about 5 minutes.
Okay. I had no idea. They only used 2 pages because I didn't have any idea.
Yeah, I didn't realize that about Jamboard. I guess we didn't come across that problem at ESY because there weren't 25 or more people. Okay, but you're taking care of the screenshot for, okay, so I'm not gonna stop, get out of present mode yet.
Yeah, I'll put them in 1 second. I found 2 sets, so this will work. Thanks.
Okay. I just told them they have 3 minutes left for the connector.
Good. We can look at these together when they're doing their math talk and talk about it if you think that they're good or not. I said we can talk about these Post-its when they're in their meeting room next time. See if you like them.
I might cut it a little short.
Yeah, they're probably. You know what another prompt might be for the number of the day summary is, like, in addition to the math, what are some questions you might ask children? You know, we can talk about it later.
Okay. I think if I do, yeah. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us back in the main room. And let's just wait until everyone's back. So feel free to get a drink, take a break a little bit. We have about 9 seconds. Okay, and I think almost everyone is already back. All right. Thank you everybody for being patient and graceful with me as I figured out breakout rooms, and hope that you are getting to know one another in our connector. We'll go ahead and continue. Here's our agenda for today. So we did the connector. I'll go over outcomes in a little bit. Joy is going to lead us through a math talk. Then we're going to experience a lesson summary virtually with using the number of the day routine. Then Joy will share with us all the digital resources and best practices are available for you for Monday when we start the school year with kids, and then closure and feedback. So here's our outcomes for today. Our big theme is equitable access and cognitive demand agency in the virtual world. So everything we're going to experience obviously is going to be virtually, like the math routine, and how does it support students' number sense and fluency. We're going to engage a lesson summary, which is part of the 5 practices that helps student conversations, agency, and ownership over their own learning. And then explore the resources that are available to you from the math team. Once again, please use the chat feature to jot down any questions that you have. We will try to answer them as much as much as possible when we are presenting. But if we don't get to them, we probably get to them later in the slide deck. And like I said, we do have 3 times. This is one of the times where we can take a brief break to answer any questions. And then I think that's it. So I don't see anything in the chat. All right, and I'll hand it off to Joy.
Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you for being here today. We're going to get started with one of our signature strategies. I think many of you are familiar with the Math Talk. Obviously, it looks a little bit different in a virtual learning space. But we can still use the same strategy to present a math problem, give students think time to think of a strategy, and share their thinking with the teacher and with their peers. So again, this is just a way for students to engage in some mental math and share their thinking. I think most of you are familiar with our math norms. If you haven't seen these before, we're going to take a minute. I'm going to ask if anyone wants to popcorn it out to unmute yourself and just share one out loud with the whole group.
Talk about each other's thinking.
Thank you.
Answers are important, but they're not the math.
Ask questions until ideas make sense.
Use multiple strategies and multiple representations.
Errors are gifts that promote discussion.
Great. So think to yourself for a minute, one of these norms that you want to pay attention to during our math talk. You may type your answer in the chat if you feel like it. But one of the reasons we do math together is just to help build your own math identity and identify the strengths that you bring to a task. It also helps us build empathy with our students and what they experience when we ask them to do some of these routines. And it just hopefully will spark some of your curiosity. So if anyone would like to share the norms that they want to work on today during the math talk, feel free. And if not, we will get started. So this is a dot talk, and I'm going to ask you to take a few minutes to look at this image. When you have a way of coming up with how many dots do you see, and how do you see them, I'm going to ask you to go into the reaction button down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Use the little thumbs up to let me know that you are ready and have a way to explain your thinking. So take a couple minutes. How many dots do you see, and how do you see them? Again, this is mental math, so we're not using any pencil and paper. And when you have a way to explain how many dots you see and how many you see that, just put a thumbs up either in the screen or in the reaction button down at the bottom of the Zoom. And I see some of you are putting your answers in the chat. That's fine. We're going to put you in breakout groups in a few minutes, so you'll be able to share your thinking with the small group. Okay. Didn't get a lot of thumbs up reactions, but I see lots of answers and ways of thinking in the chat. So we will, at this point, Kawthar will send you back into the breakout groups that you were in earlier for the connection. You will take turns about 1.5 to 2 minutes each, sharing your screen and using the annotate button to describe how you saw the dots. And again, you're going to take turns, make sure everyone has enough time to share. And then we're going to come back to and debrief it as a whole group. Okay. So in your breakout groups, you're going to take turns sharing your screen. At the top under view options, there's a place where you can annotate button. You can use an annotate button to write on the screen and share what your method for counting the dots was.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and open all rooms. We'll have about 8 minutes.
Thanks, Kawthar. You're keeping time.
Yeah, I'm putting notes for the and then
Are we alone?
let me see, hold on. Okay. Let me check the time. I see. Okay, I'm gonna close all rooms. Okay. Joy, you're ready for when they come back? They should be coming up.
Mhm.
Okay, everyone is coming. Yeah, everyone's starting to come back, Joy.
Great.
And everyone should be starting to come back. Yep, we have everybody, Joy.
Okay, great. So, great. I hope you guys all had a chance to share your thinking and shared lots of creative ways that you saw these dots. I'm going to take a couple examples from you all. And if you could go into the participants section of the Zoom and do a raise hand if you would like to share. And I'll call on 2 or 3 to share different responses to how they saw these dots. So as soon as I see a raised hand. Again, that's under the participants button. If you click on that, you'll be able to raise your hand to indicate that you're willing to share your ways.
So I see Cynthia has a raised hand.
Cynthia, would you like to unmute and explain how you thought of this?
Sure. So I saw that there's one central point, and then I noticed that there are 3 dots coming out from the central points.
One central point here, 3 dots coming out.
And then I counted how many, someone in my group called them spokes. So spokes were attached to the central point. I counted 8. And so then in parentheses, I wrote 3 times 8 and then just plus 1. And that gave me 25.
3 times 8. Practicing the annotate function. And then you said 24 plus 1. Great. So this was Cynthia. Sorry. Great. I'm going to take a screenshot of this so that we can discuss it in a minute. Is there somebody else that would like to share? I see Michelle has a raised hand. Did you have a different way that you could share with us, Michelle?
Yes, I did. I actually calculated it incorrectly, but I can say what I did. Because the first thing I saw was the plus, the middle down and over. So I just said 7 times 2.
So this was,
yeah.
Is that right?
Yep, and then also the one going across, so you see the plus.
Okay, 7.
So I double counted the middle dot, but
Okay.
so I said 7 times 2, and I did 3 plus 7 times 2 in parentheses plus 3 times 4, because I saw the 3 going round.
Hold on one second, because you said you did this in parentheses. You said 7 times 2. Oops, go back to my graph. 7. Oops. All right, sorry. Continue. Now I'm caught up with you.
And then I did plus 3 times 4. 4 3.
And so you did, these were the 7, and these were the,
right.
Okay, this is Michelle. And Michelle, what was your answer? You said you.
My answer, I got 14 plus 12, which was 26, because I double counted the middle.
So you said 14.
Equals 26.
we could rectify that by
Subtracting 1. 20.
okay. So again, I'm gonna save this for
That would be
later.
20.
Yeah, then we could. I ran out of room. So.
That's fine.
Is there one other person that would like to share a different method for counting the dots? If not, this is fine. We will move on to share these and capture them into the next slide so we can discuss it. Give me a second. Kawthar's gonna have to refresh her screen real quick.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
so we can discuss these.
Okay,
Be
ready?
patient for just a couple seconds.
Here you go, Joy. It's ready.
Is it all fitting on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, so my question is to the group. What do you notice and what do you wonder? Sorry, some of it got a little cut off. What do you notice about Michelle's method and Cynthia's method? Somebody would like to share. Again,
I'm Seema. I'm a special ed teacher, resource teacher. So what I would see is like, the fewer chances the students have of making computational errors, the better for them. In the first, in the green one, they might end up making more mistakes because there's more calculations. Whereas in the second one, there's just like basically one multiplication and one addition. So that's my perspective from my students' point of view. But most of them would have probably, just counted 3 and 3 and 3 and 3 one by one to get the answer.
right. Somebody else, feel free to unmute yourself and chime in with what do you notice? What do you wonder? I noticed that Cynthia, through that norm of using mistakes are gifts, was able to identify what she had done as an error when she double counted the middle one, which reinforces our norm. That's how we learn. Anybody else want to share?
I can share.
Great, thank you.
I noticed that when you first assigned this, I had immediately panicked a little bit because I said, "Oh no, math," and just that doing something and then talking about it. But so I started out like Michelle, and then I started to go, "Wait, this." Then I noticed that it was going to be too much, so then I went to Cynthia's strategy. But so I noticed that we all kind of doing the same thing, right? Which was kind of nice. I have to set my anxiety, as say I'm a student, to kind of reassure myself that it's okay.
Thanks. Well, there's another comment in the chat.
Yeah, I like the math problem a lot, and it was fun to do, but I have a really hard time writing on this, circling it. I was trying to write numbers. I've never done this before, and I teach kindergarten, so it might not come up, so I didn't want to waste people's time, but I found it a little hard. I wonder if some kids would be intimidated on just showing what they wrote. I could barely circle things right.
Right. The annotate function definitely takes a little bit of practice, and for younger kids, maybe the teacher is scribing. We wanted to give you guys practice with what it feels like. There's also a text function, which might have been easier for me to type in the number equations part rather than trying to draw the numbers.
Can you tell me just how you for the share screen, you got this from the math curriculum. I recognize the dots because
Yes, it's from
so you
units.
have to upload that, and then like I'm not even sure how to put that on the share screen, I guess.
We basically just took a screenshot and put it on a slide.
Oh, and then you put it in a Google slide, and then you
And when we share the resources at the end of this session, you'll get to start looking at the slide decks that have been put together for the first units of the math curriculum. And a lot of them have images basically taken straight out of the curriculum and screenshotted into slides so that you can interact with them with your students.
I will. That's what because I was thinking I really liked this when I was teaching kindergarten. I love those pictures and the other ones with over and under and things, and I would have math talk, but then I thought I don't want them writing, so I just want to show it and ask people. And how many dots? 3? How do you know? And just talk.
Yeah, exactly. And especially that's totally appropriate in kindergarten. Absolutely.
Okay, good.
And typically in a math talk, the teacher is doing the scribing. So.
So I might need somebody to help me just how to get that on the screen, but you have to go through that. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
If there's no other quick comments about this, let's just process a little bit about how that felt to do it virtually. It's obviously, like we were just discussing, it's a little different than doing it in person with your students, but how did it feel to do this live? Going into the breakout rooms, sharing your thinking, coming back as a whole group and sharing. How did that feel?
I want to say one more thing. I think it's really easy to not participate online. Like I was kind of quiet, and I'm not usually that quiet for a living because I thought, well, somebody else will do it. Whereas in a classroom, I think more people raise their hand. I'm looking at them, and I don't know. There's ways to ice break, but it's kind of intimidating to wait to see what are you going to put up there.
Yeah, I mean it's hard enough in a in-person setting to get all students to participate, but even more so in a virtual environment. I mean, one thing I was going to say is that if you had done it similarly to either Cynthia or Michelle, that you could show a symbol like this in the window so that we can see that there's like other ways to engage if you didn't feel like sharing or putting yourself out there like that. I'm curious, any other ideas about how you think, because obviously you're not going to be able to do, every lesson, every minute of the day with your students synchronously. So how could you adapt this to do it asynchronously? Are there any ideas or things people have tried in the spring around some asynchronous strategies, especially to engage all students? And if you've already had a chance to talk, step back, give someone else a chance to participate. It is a challenge to encourage engagement in a digital environment. But we would love to hear from you. You guys are your best resource, the best resources for each other.
I have one thing I did. Here, I'll put on my video. I would, like, in the comment sections or like on my stream, sometimes I would put up something and then I would have the kids like, what do you, like have them respond in the comment section on Google Classroom. Like, I mean, because I tried to do that one assignment that's the question, but I never could quite figure it out. That type of assignment where you ask a question, then people could see I can't figure out how you could see the other people's response. But I think there's a way to do that. I'm not sure.
You're talking about Google Classroom, not Zoom.
Yes, I'm talking about on Google Classroom.
And I know a lot of teachers are doing it with Seesaw, and there is a way for you to ask students that they could upload. There's a question in the chat, or no, sorry, Kawthar was responding to something. Do you want to chime in, Kawthar?
Yeah, Anna did say that you can use Seesaw to do the math talk asynchronously, which we have heard that a lot of teachers did in the spring. Similar idea as Google Classroom, like Pamela shared.
Yeah, you can students have the option to upload an image, they can record their voice. So it makes it a little more interactive. And I know teachers that last spring were just holding, recording themselves doing the math talk, pausing to do the wait time, and then having students, talk to either somebody at home that was maybe in the room with them, or jot down their ideas to share later. So
Yeah.
Any last questions? The next section is actually to answer more questions.
So there was a question about how, Joy, you got the two representations side by side on a slide. So after Joy annotated your thinking, she took a screenshot, and I think it's Shift Command 4.
Yes.
Okay, Shift Command 4 on a Mac. I don't know what it is on a PC. I'm sorry, but I'm sure you can look it up. And then we had a slide built in where she put them side by side. So that's how she got them on there. So that was a question that came up.
Which I think you'll see the importance of this too in the next section when Kawthar goes over like the importance of doing a lesson summary. It's really nice to be able to have student work for them to discuss. So as much as we can. And I wanted to do 3, but really there's not quite enough room to put 3 of those images on one slide. You could do more slides though.
Yeah.
Just a blank slide as a placeholder, and then, yeah.
And as you get to know your students, like I see Lori sharing a lot of knowledge that she and many of you have been sharing a lot of knowledge from this spring. As you get to know your students in the fall and their context and their stamina, you definitely, as you're looking at the lessons in any content, you have to figure out, is this one I want to do synchronously with breakout groups, or do I do it synchronously in small groups, or do I do it asynchronously? Seesaw, Google Classroom, we all know that this virtual environment can definitely take a toll on all of us, students and adults. So really getting to know your kids' context as relationships, we say relationships matter, and then designing lessons and learning opportunities that really meet their needs. So I appreciate you, Lori, sharing that, and we're all in all of this together in the fall, and we'll figure it out and meet the kids where they are.
Yeah, I mean, like we didn't have any idea the Jamboard was only 25 people, so we're just learning. You just got to jump in and try things out, and that's how we learn. And we make mistakes, we make mistakes, and that's how we learn.
So keep the questions coming in the chat. Joy will monitor them, and we will leave time at the end of the session for people to stay on, and we can, help you. So we'll go ahead and move on to the 5 practices for orchestrating productive math discussion. So all of us, we know that for students to really retain and learn, they have to be able to have opportunities where they're talking about the learning. So one of the pedagogies that we have embedded in SFUSD math curriculum is called the 5 practices. And it really supports academic conversations in the classroom and helping kids use student work. So using their work to connect ideas and arrive at the core math, or like the learning objective. So if you're unfamiliar with it, the 5 practices, this is just a brief overview. There's a link that Joy will share in the chat that has, so just a 1-pager if you want to learn more about it. We are going to model the 5 practices using the number of the day routine. The first thing you do is anticipate what students' responses are going to be. So Joy and I did the number of the day, so the different representations for 53. We tried to come up with as many as we could. So for something that's not a math routine, like a task, is doing the task before you give it to students. Then once you give it to students, going around and monitoring students' responses. So if you're in a classroom, you would have a clipboard and you're writing yourself notes about how students are solving problems. In a virtual environment, you saw Joy and I looking at the Jamboard. I tried to narrate some of the things I was seeing. But when you were in a breakout room for the connector, Joy and I looked at the Jamboard and were kind of looking to see what people wrote. Then we started to think about, okay, which student work we want to present to the class that gets at the math, at the core math for that day, okay? And then you also have to be mindful about sequencing them. And in what steps or in what way do you want to show the student work that it tells a math story? That ultimately, by the time they look at 3 different student work, that they're like, oh, when I did this math talk, I learned that blah, 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 okay? So after you show them the sequence of the student samples that you've chosen, then you give students opportunity to connect. You ask them questions like, what do you notice? What do you wonder? You can ask them questions like I'm going to ask you in a little bit that says, what similarities do you notice? What differences do you notice? And what connections do you see between these ideas? You're really putting a lot of the onus and the agency on the students to engage in that productive struggle and to like make sense of student work that's theirs and their peers to help them get at the learning objective for that day or the core math. Okay. Again, if you want to learn more about the 5 practices, there is a 1-pager. Feel free to take a look. And all of this is embedded in the core curriculum. So you're probably doing steps of these, if not all of them already. We just wanted to name it out loud for you. So using our number of the day, the Jamboard, we have 2 examples. Here's example A, and I'm just gonna flash through them really quick, okay? And here's example B. Okay, you have access to the slide deck. You're going to choose either example A or example B, okay? And I'm gonna put you in breakout groups, and Joy will put these directions in the chat, and I'll also broadcast them to the breakout groups. You're going to take the first 5 minutes, and I might cut some of this short because we want to give people time for Q&A. Take 5, maybe 3 to 4 minutes just answering the questions. How are these representations similar? How are these representations different? And what connections can you make between these representations? Again, Joy will drop these in the chat. Okay. And then after you've answered those questions, you've talked with one another, whether you choose example A or example B, we are going to challenge you to think about, based on the example that you picked, okay, what would be your summary statement? What would be that one math story that you want your students, or in our case, we want you to come up with that tells us this is the story of the examples for, this is the math story for example B, okay? So examples, I'm sorry, I went too fast. Examples of a math story or a core math is there are different ways to compose and decompose a number if you are thinking about multiplication, for example. Visual tools such as number line or hundreds chart can help us make sense of numbers. It's just one sentence. It's what you want students to get at the end of that lesson. So it's a lot of directions. I know I gave you a lot of oral, auditory directions. Joy has been putting these in the chat. I'm going to start our breakout. And
remind me what I'm putting in the chat. Sorry, I was answering some.
Just the questions that they should be thinking to help them connect. So what were the similarities, the differences, and the connections? And then we know Jamboard has a limit now. Thank you, Ms. Hampson, and everyone else that weighed in. So you can just write it in the chat, but you understand the point where we're trying to engage you in the process instead of telling you. So you can just write it in the chat or just discuss it with your group, is what would be your summary statement if you're unable to access the Jamboard. Okay.
1 second. Jamboard link is coming right now.
All right, so I'll hold off. And I am going to cut it just a little short so that way people have time at the end. To check out the resources that the math team has created and stay back for any Q&A. Just let me know when you're ready, Joy, and I'll start breakout
The
groups.
Jamboard chat is in the link in the chat. The link is in the chat, and the directions are also in the chat.
All right. I'm going to open all rooms. Okay, let's see. Dan, do you have a question for us, or are you okay?
No, me?
Yeah.
Not at the moment. I was chatting with you earlier about a question about the Common Core, the digitalized Common Core. You said we said we'd chat after later, but
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
now?
No. Go ahead and wait until you'll see Joy kind of share the resources, and then we'll stop recording because some people feel more comfortable asking questions once we
Okay.
stop recording,
Okay.
and then you can ask us your question. I saw you talking, and I didn't know whether you were muted and you were trying to ask us something, so I just thought.
Yeah, I was trying to ask a question because I switched over to my iPhone for a short time, and then I lost. I don't know if we're in a breakout room or not. What's the?
Yeah,
I lost.
everyone else is in a breakout room right now, so
I can put you in a breakout room if you want, and you can just listen into the conversation. Would you like that, Dan?
Yeah, sure. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I switched over to my iPhone. I think I lost the connection. So yeah, sure. Put me in a
I'll do
breakout.
that.
Okay.
No
do you know
problem.
what room
No
you
problem.
were in already? Does it matter?
What is it?
Does it matter what room he was in? Okay.
No, I'll just
I was-
assign you
yeah.
to a random room. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to maneuver
Here we go.
Zoom on your phone.
Yeah, it's different.
They're probably chatting.
Yeah. There's a couple responses now.
Okay, maybe I'll just broadcast it.
Understand
Broadcast it.
the numbers can be broken up into tens and ones. Tens and ones are 18. Yeah, they're getting it.
Guys, I hate to say this, but I lost my breakout room.
It's okay. I'll put you back in. You were in one.
Thanks.
Let me tell them that they have about. Are you getting good?
Yeah, I see something. I would see one thing I can work with. What's happening?
Okay. Let me see.
Oh, no.
Should I read a couple of them out loud?
I was gonna look I forgot what was gonna happen next. Yeah.
It's just a lesson structure.
I think you should read a couple out loud. They're good, actually. They're really good.
Okay.
And this one, core math, we don't have to start counting from 0 or 1. If we group numbers by 10s or by 25s, we can do skip counting or multiplication depending on the grade level. Understanding that a number can be broken up into 10s and 1s. I like the can represent bigger numbers using 10s and 1s. 2-digit numbers can be decomposed into 10s and 1s.
Some people are just sharing their similar. Yeah.
And they're noticing, so yeah, like that's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them 60 seconds.
Okay.
Is that good? It's fine, right?
Yeah.
That way they can ask us
And as I was kind of saying, you could also put these three three ideas in front of students and get them to notice, make connections, right?
Yeah.
And then some, the dialogue again.
Is there any way you can stick me, sorry for the interruption, stick me back into the breakout group 7? I didn't mean, we were right in the middle of something. I didn't quite mean to.
Yes, although you have about 32 seconds. Hold on,
Okay,
Michelle.
that's okay. Thank you.
You know what? I don't know.
I can't. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't. Yeah. Sorry about that, Michelle.
No, that's okay. It's all good.
Okay. 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 So I think people are coming back. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I think people are starting to come back. Sorry if I cut your conversation short. I just want to make sure that we do have time for Joy to share the resources that the math team has developed and created for all of us for the fall, and that there's a time for Q&A. And I hope that you're able to kind of understand what Joy and I want you to be able to, the learning opportunities we want you to create for your students. So here is our Jamboard for the number of the day as it relates to the summary statements. And I'm just going to read a few out loud. So there's one that says core math, 1. We don't have to start counting from 0 or 1. If we group numbers by tens, example A, or by 25s, example B, we can do skip counting or multiplication, depending on the grade level. For K2, you practice skip counting. There's one right next to it that says example A, understanding that a number can be broken up into tens and ones. There's a blue one that says example B, you can count by 5s, then 1s to get to a number. So I see some really amazing summary statements. So I'm choosing to read these out loud. One thing you can do is actually have students come up with summary statements and then present it to them and tell them, ask them, what do you think? What do you notice about the similarities between some of these the core math statements or the summary statements or the math story that you want that our lesson tells? Okay. Is there anything you want to add to this, Joy, before I move on?
No, that just engaging students in that discussion, like Kawthar was talking about, the whole point of the 5 practices, engage them in discussion. So even just putting those 3 representations in front of them, like we did for you, to discuss what you were noticing, what was similar, what was different. Yes, for instance, someone noticed this on the Jamboard, that there's a concrete representation, right, with the base 10 kind of block representation. Then there's this idea that you could skip count by tens. And then the idea that translates into repeated addition translates into multiplication and multiplying groups of numbers. So getting students to notice these things and then together kind of tying it together as a teacher, here's the core math. And you guys did amazing. But engage your students in that discussion with these different representations and see what noticings and connections that they're making.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. So just a brief summary about the 5 practices. They're anticipating, which is when you do the task, you do the math yourself. Monitoring, selecting, sequencing, and connecting. And we wanted to explicitly kind of name and point out to you where that support is in the units. So those of you that already are familiar with the SFUSC math core curriculum, we kind of, next to each of the practices, we put the parts of the lesson structure that correlates with that practice. So we're not asking you to do anything new. We just want you to notice that you are doing this, and figure out, and like all of us, figure out how to do this virtually. Joy, do you want to add anything to this?
Well, yeah, it's a perfect segue, actually, Kawthar, because even though you still have access to these units online or in your paper copies, the lesson plans are much more detailed and lengthy than you're going to have time to do in distance learning. So one of the resources that we want to share with you today are the slide decks that some of you use them in the springtime, but we basically have kind of condensed the units and pulled out the kind of key math and priority standards that we think are the most important for each unit. And the district is recently unveiling this new resource, which is the launching page for the first 30 days. It has, for each grade level, a page with every content area and links directly to the slide decks. So everyone kind of following the same format. We're sharing it all in one resource for teachers so that it's not confusing and overwhelming and you have to go a million places to find things. So the first, I'll just name a couple things. The button here that you say that says math, links directly to the first 2 weeks, which is unit 0. So again, we've taken a 5-day unit and kind of expanded it into 10 days. So you could take a look at that. And then for the rest of the units that will be forthcoming, you can see an updated scope and sequence below. This is just a screenshot of what that page looks like, but when you go into the link, there's additional math resources. It has the decks in Spanish. It has the K2, the combined units. Here's the whole document, but for each grade level, it has these resources by content area. Scroll down a little more. Kawthar, right at the bottom. Yeah, at the bottom it says additional resources for teachers. Here are additional links, whether there's a deck in Spanish, whether it's the Unit 0 priorities document, and then a scope and sequence for the rest of the year that kind of calls out the main things. So you can browse that if you haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Like I said, it's just coming out to teachers basically today. Go ahead to the next slide. We've also just put in links to all the different Math Talk banks, which you can find them in our portal for each grade level, but if you want to just browse them right now, it's by grade level. We've got counting routines linked here in the next slide. And a lot of these are they're also embedded in our slide decks for each unit, but if you want to, create some of your own stuff, feel free. This is, again, this is where you'll find kind of the updated scope and sequence where we've kind of condensed units and just pulled out specific content standards. And the last resource that's linked here are the different virtual manipulatives. And again, they're named in the slide decks as well. But take this time to go ahead and just explore the different resources, get familiar with them. Kawthar and I'm going to stay here and hang out if anyone wants to pop in and just have questions, conversation with us. You have until 3 o'clock. Their feedback link, I think, is for the entire day today. So at some point, you're going to be asked to give feedback on the sessions you attended. And our contact information is here. Kawthar is going into the classroom to be a 3rd grade teacher, but she's spent the last few years working in the math department. She has a lot of knowledge and resources. So check it out.
So what I'm going to do is stop recording because I know some people don't feel comfortable asking questions or, sharing their video while I'm recording. So I'm going to stop recording, and the last 20 minutes will just be Q&A, exploring the resources that we've been able to create for you. And some of it is forthcoming, but for sure, the first 30 days, I think, for the most part, are there, and the revised scope and sequence. So stay on. I'm just going to stop recording for a minute.